Welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast, where you get to choose, change and take action to create a different today and a different future. These are my stories of choice, change and action, along with the phenomenal guests I have on here. From a really young age, I've always desired to create a change in the world. The planet has been a constant inspiration to me, and Access Consciousness has shown me the tools to know that anything is possible. And I keep choosing. What are you going to choose? Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast. So you are with me, your host, Simone Milasas, and I'm still in Australia at the moment, actually, in Peregian Beach in cold Australia, which everyone says that I can't complain about the cold, but it's cold for us. So I'm just saying that. Anyway, I have Rachael O'Brien, who is a fellow Joy Business Facilitator and certified facilitator of Access Consciousness, who I think you were born and bred in Ireland, but you are currently living in Germany. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Cool. So welcome, Rachael. It's about bloody time that I had you on here. We have gone through this podcast many times, and for various reasons, it just hasn't come through. So here we are today. And one of the things that, Rachael, I've always admired about you and how you be is your ability to connect and engage with others. And we were just recently in Marseille, France, and we had, Joy business classes going on. And one of the things that you said there, you were telling this story, and you said, I just picked up the phone and I called them. And there was the way you said it, I went, oh, that energy, because I'm constantly hearing people, whether it's in classes or private sessions or chatting to people, and they're not willing to take the action that gets you somewhere else. I love listening to different random podcasts, and I'm just listening to this podcast at the moment, which we'll put in the show notes because it's brilliant. It's called The Diary of a CEO, and he's interviewing Cody Sanchez. And she's amazing. She's worked in corporate for a long time, and then she's also created a lot of wealth by buying different companies. And it's very interesting the way she looks at everything. But the one thing is, she's also very much willing to take action and engage. And Rachael, you have been a Joy Business Facilitator you were one of the first people who ever chose it. And I call you our rah-rah girl too, because it's like you've got pom-poms just going, come on, everybody, don't you get it? There's another possibility, join your business, So thank you for that, first of all. And I want to ask you about your ability to connect. First of all, do you even realize you have an ability to connect the way you do?
I do know, after being around you I met you first in 2013, and I would say I wasn't around people that were open to seeing someone's functionality in a different way. That's me putting it politely. And
well,
so
unfortunately, that's what happens to so many of us. So the first thing I'd like to say too is, if you're listening to this and you're like constantly being put down or not acknowledged for what you're great at, just take a moment for yourself. Like, really, honestly, take a moment for yourself and have a look at, what are my capacities that I haven't acknowledged? Because if you're waiting for family and so-called friends to acknowledge you, you might be waiting the entirety of your life. And to me, your life is about you choosing it and you leading it. You lead what shows up. You lead the crap. You lead the way you deal with stuff. It's like, how are you going to handle it? All of it and more. And if you ask for greater to show up, and that's what you surround yourself by, you're going to get greater and greater and greater. And if I listen to the majority of my family, it's like I wouldn't be where I am today, because they just think I'm a nutter and I'm the black sheep of the family. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'll go with that, whatever. You know what? I'm very, very happy and I love what I do. So I'm grateful that I kept knocking on your door, just being like, Rach, she's an amazing, amazing connector. So thank you for finally acknowledging it over the years as well.
And thank you for what you said. If there's someone out there, the joy of business is a revolution. It is something that has never existed before in my point of view, in our planet. And it actually, you've brought to actualization something that actually, for me, is the closest thing to nature that I've seen in business. And so if there's no connection in nature, everything dies. Like nothing can be sustainable and livable if there's no connection. And so you were the first person when someone said, do you acknowledge that you've this amazing capacity to connect and engage with people? And so for me, I have that capacity, like when you see a beautiful flower, that its beauty like opens up some gratitude inside me that I don't have to explain it, but it's there. And with the tools and with Joy Business, because I truly believed I was effed up in business. I didn't have the
You can
skills
say fucked
or
up. That's okay. You can swear.
okay. I
Do
wasn't
whatever you
sure.
want.
And so I truly believe I was fucked up in business because I would have worked with people that were about take, what I have to get, what I have to take. And for me, there was no value in that, but I didn't have the words to the difference in Joy Business, which is about commerce, which is about your product and your service being proud and inviting people to your product and service, and then being willing to develop your skills and become competent so you can deliver what you essentially love, which was for you the Joy Business. And for me, coming along as a facilitator and being like so excited that we can offer something different. And so for me, yeah.
No, I love the fact that you mentioned two things. One is the way you referred to nature, because I quite often do that. And but the way you said it, like nature doesn't stand alone. It doesn't. A flower doesn't go, do not come near me. I don't want to receive from you guys. Like it's constantly receiving. And for me, the way I like to describe that too is the ecosystem that we see. So the ecosystem we see out in nature, we can be a part of that ecosystem on this planet. We actually are a part of the ecosystem. I remember going on a game drive in South Africa, and one of our drivers said, so many people come on these game drives and they think they're just watching, but we are a part of this ecosystem. I think if you get that you are a part of this ecosystem, and if you look at business as an ecosystem and how you can contribute to other people, other businesses, other products, services, the expansion of greater possibilities here on the planet, we're going to have a really different planet. And let's bring it back to also what you and the connecting side of things. And I want to ask you, why do you think most people don't actually desire to connect with others? Like just pick up the phone and make a call. And you can tell I'm old school. If you're listening to us, I'm on YouTube right now. You can tell, and I'm doing old school phone, right? You can tell my age because I'm holding my hand up as though it's an old school telephone, That I watched this thing where they ask people like to act out what a phone is, and all these people over a certain age all did the same thing I'm doing now, and all people of a younger age like held up something as though it was a phone, and I was like, oh my god, it's so interesting how times change. But anyway, I digressed. So what is it that you get is why most people don't actually desire to engage?
I get they're just not interested.
It's not interested. I think they're scared shitless.
Yeah,
I think they don't want to get a no.
I would say it's two things. I worked with a lady recently, and she is extremely gifted in the work that she delivers. And I said to her, how come you don't pick up the phone, like make a list? So this is the way my brain works. She delivers this work, which is about coming back to loving yourself, and have like 5 videos and have conversations with some, like for me, I'm lucky enough to talk to Simone Milasas. So pick up the phone and ask 5 people, will they make video content, because she was struggling to make content. And her point of view, you're actually correct. Her point of view was they may say no. And for me, it's like, so what if they say no? At least you're inviting them, And so that, and I suppose there's something in me that drives the picking up the phone. I am more interested in what we can get to together, you know what I mean, in the conversation that we can have. I'm more interested in contribution than the incompetence to pick up the phone. And that might be very like straight, and I can sometimes be very straight. it doesn't matter what my point of view is. It's about what I can create with you and what I see, Simone. And this, can I tell you a story?
Yeah.
Okay, I might have to check my phone for her name, because this is the way that I work. So yesterday I was coming in from Frankfurt, or from Charles de Gaulle, and I was sitting down in a seat in the airport, super comfy. And this lady walks over and she's very happy and she's engaging and she's on her phone. And I look at her and I said, "You look very happy today." And she said, "Yeah, I'm a biology teacher from Kosovo. We've been through a war in, I'm pretty sure, 1998. And I continue to teach the children. I'm a biology teacher, and my son just won a top science award." And I said to her, "Oh my God, that's like incredible. You're unstoppable." And then I said, "I'm so proud of women like you and me that don't stop." And she said, "Nothing can stop me." And I said, "I'm so proud of people like that, because they're a massive contribution to the world, to know that we can deal with anything." And then she said, "Can I get your card?" And I said, "No, I'm rubbish at cards. Here's my phone. Here's my phone. Put in your number." And then you have me on WhatsApp forever, you know? And so
Yeah.
basically I took my phone, okay, took my phone, and I got her to put in her number. And then I sent a message, "Lovely to meet you, Rachel." And by the time I got to my gate, "Thanks a lot, Rachel. We will welcome you anytime to Kosovo."
Wow. That is so cool. Yeah. And it's that engagement. And I love it because there's a level of vulnerability that you have with that, of like, no, just here's my phone. Because a card has this, like, you can choose it, or it can be a dismissal or whatever. I want to point something out. What I notice in you, and what I notice in so many successful people, is there is a level of curiosity that you have, because you're not assuming that everyone wants to know about you. You are genuinely really curious about other people. I think when you have that curiosity on other people, it does spark open it sparks open everything, all the doors that they didn't even realize that they had slammed shut, because you're just like, hey, and
You
have
know,
this.
my kids say, "You've met my two daughters." They say, "You're just super nosy."
Hey, call it a connector, call it super nosy, call it curious. But here's the thing. It's like, how many people actually say something like that so that you can stop it, because you are undefinable as you become more curious. It's
And
not result driven. It's not linear. It's not this place where you go, oh, if you went, I was at the airport and I noticed this woman, but I never spoke to her. That's the end of it. Now you're at the airport, you notice this woman and you reach out and speak to her. You have no idea where this is going to end up. You might see her again. You might not see her again. But you've opened up this dialogue. You've opened up a door that has a level of engagement where now you guys get to choose.
And also for me, it's about cooperation. And we talk a lot about this. And when I'm willing to cooperate, and just by that engagement, there's something beautiful that you gifted me. Like, you opened up this in me the first time I met you. And there's this cooperation, that recognizing her, acknowledging her, like, wow, you kept going in a war, you kept teaching biology, and now look at what this created for your son, 12 years or whatever amount of time on, 25 years on. And so what I love is, it's when you cooperate, when you're willing to cooperate and gift, there's this receiving, and it's a big topic, but we'll just touch on it lightly. But there's this receiving. For me, I started taking a look at, because one of my favorite things in the world, and I know it's the same for you, is access bars. Like, for me, for any CEO, for anyone, we've ran it on many people. It's like taking all the stress, because I used to get super stressed, and I still can. I honestly still can get stressed about, silly things that aren't really relevant, but you can get caught up in it. And these bars just like take all that rubbish and just put it over the mountain, so that you can continue being present. And I started looking at.
Just interrupt for 1 second. What do you mean by cooperate?
So basically, when the two of us cooperate together, the way the earth, the bird cooperates with the worm, the bee cooperates with the flower.
That's funny.
The
Google what, because for me, cooperate has a little bit of a different energy. It's sort of like, so I just want to, because to me, it's like, yeah, okay, so you're working jointly towards the same end. Leaders promise to cooperate in ending the civil war. So you're working jointly towards the same end. So yeah, to me, it's a little bit like that you are in compliance with somebody else rather than actually this contribution that you can be together. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. It has more of an operations technical operate to it instead of
Yeah,
this.
like I'll cooperate with you. I'll go on a date
Yeah.
with you. Yeah, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But interesting just to look at the words of things, because how did you grow up with that? Like for me, when you kept saying cooperate, I went, well, that feels like I'm dismissing what I know. So I get that's not where you're coming from, Rachel. So
Not
you're
at
coming
all.
more from the way I would describe like this contribution, this like
Contribution.
explosion into a different possibility of what can show up. So yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to clear that up. I was like, why are we cooperating? I don't want to cooperate. It's sort of like, you know, when your parent goes, cooperate. You know, I'm like, why?
Cooperate with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so in that contribution, which is so much softer, and a lot of people have no idea what this is as well. And Simone just said contribution is that willingness to work together and can actually gift what you know to someone. And so basically, I started looking at from the conversation, I wonder if there are bars in Kosovo. I wonder if people are facilitating bars. Like, who can these people go to strengthen their abilities, capacities? Is this available? And so for me, I know bars has created my life massively greater. And I started looking at, oh, the country of Kosovo. Not only did I engage with the lady, but now I engaged with another country that I haven't engaged with, and I don't really have a lot of, other than what I grew up with, like in the late 90s in Ireland, about like Kosovo and kids lost and just havoc, you know. Now I'm engaging, and my energy is engaging ease, joy, and glory, which is a taboo in business. Ease with business is totally taboo. And so now there's a different level of things opening up. Do I know what they look like? No, but I do trust though that something occurs from contribution.
Yeah, and I just looked up contribution as well. I mean, I know we know what these words are, and sometimes it's interesting to see, you know, what's put out there, because that's also got a frequency to it. And the contribution, and one of the things here it says it is like helping something to advance. So for me, that's what that is. Let's advance into a future that, yeah. So interesting. So I wanted to talk more about the engagement that you be with others, and maybe some of the tools. Because look, here's the thing, Rachel, you're a natural connector, right? You find it really easy. I'm actually good at connecting, and I find it very easy. It's not my preference. I don't actually, you know, like doing it, but I can do it. So there's a difference. And there's some people, like I said, are friggin' scared shitless. And I would like to, I'm not saying you have to, if you're listening to this, you have to change the entirety way you are. Maybe that you are one of those people who loves to, you know, create, but not actually be the one out there connecting. That's okay, right? And I would like to give some tools or some questions that for people to start having a look at. What if this wasn't the scariest thing in the world, is to connect to somebody? And what do you recommend that somebody can start? Like when you said, I just picked up the phone, I was like, brilliant. I just picked up the phone. Talk about making phone calls.
Absolutely. And so my son, I have a 25-year-old son, and he said, I just hit the number. So he was terrified of making phone calls, like terrified. So now he has this tactic where he just presses the number. So what are you avoiding by making that phone call? What have you decided that you cannot? Like for me, it's always avoidance. I've avoided a lot in my earlier years. I grew up with a mother that was avoided everything, and I developed some of them patterns and habits myself. And there's no right and wrong, and this is the awareness of what it created for me and my functionality. And so basically, what are you avoiding by not picking up the phone? And you might be avoiding that is,
well,
yeah.
let's run this, because before you said, what are you avoiding by not picking up the phone, and what have you decided? So what have you decided would happen? And everything at that is time to go and we destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys, periods, and beyonds. And that is the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. If you want to find out more about it, you can go to theclearingstatement.com, which is all in the show notes. If you are subscribing to the podcast, you are getting all of these notes. We do a little summary, etc., in the show notes. So please subscribe and share it, because I would like the whole world to be invited to, a different possibility, to be invited to contribution and a different possibility. So what are you avoiding by not picking up the phone, and what have you decided would happen? And everything at that is time to go zillion, we destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys, periods, and beyonds. I want to say picking up the phone, but also answering the phone. There was really early on when I was working with Gary Douglas, who is the founder of Access Consciousness. We were doing something, and his phone rang, and he picked it up and he answered it. And then we were still doing this thing, and his phone rang, and he picked it up and answered it. And I looked at him and I went, you never not pick up your phone and answer it. And only if there was something like super important or something that he really just couldn't do it, would he do that. And he was like, well, why wait? I'm just going to have to listen to the message and then call them back. And I learned something so valuable at that stage, because Gary just never puts anything off until tomorrow. If he can deal with it today, he'll deal with it today. And it was so valuable, because I think so many of us spend so much time, putting things off until tomorrow or the future, etc., rather than going, okay, phone rings, answer it. Let's go.
It's so funny. It's so funny. Gary Douglas has this amazing capacity that he will not allow judgment to separate, and that is one of the things. I mean, I called him a few weeks ago, and he answered immediately. I sent him a text a week ago. He was back in the way it's 10:43:01. He was back 10:43:01. And so for me, this is the guy who is the creator of Access Consciousness. We're in 192 countries, is it now? And or whatever, 179.
About 180. Yeah. There's 192 or 193 countries in the world, depending on whose point of view you take. China or Taiwan. Anyway, we're in a lot of countries right now.
Yeah. And so the one thing that I see is he will not allow judgment destroy a future that can be created, that separation cannot. And so for me, it is when my son said, I just dialed the phone, and he said something to me, my son, he said, isn't it funny how what I think is going to be bad, or what my resistance to is, it doesn't ever turn out the way that I've presumed that it will turn out. And so we'll have a little giggle about this. And so all the presumptive realities you have when you touch the phone. And a lot of people, like, I'm super psychic, you're super psychic. We call them X-Men in Access, people that are energetically aware of other people's realities. And they're super aware of people's thoughts. I don't want to pick up the phone. Feelings, emotions, I'm going to have to talk to this person, I don't want to, they're barriers. And when you're extreme, like all humanoids are psychic, and when you're extremely psychic, which is the ability extreme, you will sense someone's point of view, and you will think it's you when you go to touch the phone. You are so aware, you will be like, I don't want to ring this person, and ask a question. Is this mine, or am I aware of the person's reality that I am about to engage with? And this is huge, where that judgment will keep you separated. But what if that person just required someone to say hello to them today and not judge them and just be with them? You would be, I could tell a billion, and you could too, tell a lot of stories about times that I picked up the phone. I have this like weird capacity. When I pick up the phone and call people, they either go pay for a class, they sign up for something with Access, it's activating a possibility. And I'm always amazed by, oh my God, I called that person 3 weeks ago, or a year ago, or 5 years ago. It's just setting a seed for a different way of engagement. And when you ring someone, and you know this so well, I do not need anything from you. I do not want to get anything from you. I'm just saying hello. I'm just offering you a possibility. I'm just engaging. People, they haven't, I'm continuously stunned by they haven't actually received that from someone. So what are you rejecting with making a phone call that could create a greater world for you and the other person?
And everything that is times a godzillion, and we destroy and uncreate it. Right, and good and bad, pop and play online, shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds. Yeah, I'm going to ask all the listeners out here too to have a look at what's the worst possible phone call you think that you could make, and what if you made it? And just a little story of myself is, and I talk about this in the second book that I ever wrote, Getting Out of Debt Joyfully, is when I realized I owed, all these people, corporations, friends, like different, a variety, 187,000 Australian dollars in total. I sat down and I looked at who it was, got their phone numbers and the amount, and I rang every single person. And even if it was a bank or an institution, and I said, hey, I just want to say, I'm very aware that I owe you X amount of money. I don't have the money right now. I don't have the money to pay you. And I said,
that
but
takes courage.
Yeah, I know. And I was thinking that people were going to get angry, that they were going to, but I knew I had to do it for me. So, yeah. And I said, hey, look, I don't have the money to pay you right now. I'm going to do the best I can. And that's all I could promise. I'm going to do the best I can to get you this money as soon as I can. And there was one guy, I remember I said to him, I can pay you $50 a month right now. I will pay you more if I can, but that's what I can do. And I owed him $15,000. Like $50 a month is a long time, right? And he said to me, but that's all. Rather than avoiding it, I went, I can do $50. That's what I can do, because I had so many people that I owed money to, and institutions, etc. So, and he said to me, Simone, my wife and I would like to take you out to dinner. And I went, what? And I was like, you want to take me out to dinner? And I went, I owe you all this money, and I'm basically saying I can't pay you right now, and you want to take me out to dinner. And he said, yeah. And he said, I believe in what you're doing. And he said, we like what you're doing. We like what you're choosing. And we'd like to take you out to dinner. And I got responses from everybody that were so different. Like even the institutions were so grateful. And they were like, we will give you X amount on a payment plan. We won't charge you the interest. Because every corporation, every place has the ability to flick away that interest if they choose. They really do. There's so many things. And I had so much good feedback from reaching out and making a phone call. So what phone call could you reach out to that you've decided is going to be the worst, possible phone call? What if there's an outcome that is beyond anything you could ever imagine? And bringing back to like what Rachel was talking about at the beginning of, it's more like nature. It's a level of contribution, this ecosystem that we can be with each other rather than standing alone. What if you never had to stand alone again? What if there is so much available?
One of the most difficult phone calls I ever made in my life was when I started my business. I wasn't clean from a taxation point of view. And I left I talked to you about this. I did this amazing Get Out of Debt Joyfully program. There's a book as well. It is revolutionary in the way it gets you to look at your experience with money. And so I had experienced a lot of, I'm going to say, confusion, lack, loss. My mother didn't ever have money. And I created the same thing. And then I went to course avoidance to taxes when I started my business.
So many people go on the road though, Yeah.
And I remember I was on a call with you. Keep showing up, folks. If something, just keep asking, like keep going. And you said, just sit down with someone, see what's going on. And I put in a call to the revenue in Ireland. And honestly, I got this guy. You had said to me, Their job is to support you to pay them. They're a business. They actually want your money. And I got this guy and he said, well, it's been 3 years, because it was 3 years I left it. And he said, so here, 3 years,
That's
that's
not
a long time. And he sat down, he was like, this is the deal. He said, you're going to be struck off in 4 months if you don't sort this out. And I said, okay. And he said, go for the one thing for me was to ask and receive and have is the most powerful tool in the universe. It really is. And I'd been working with you and I said, okay, so what would it take, the fourth accountant, what would it take to have an accountant that's willing to actually like really roll up their sleeves and get into this? And you said, ask for someone, there's someone out there. And it turned out to be a friend of my kid. Do you remember this?
I remember this, yeah.
Well, wait till I tell you the way it worked out. So basically, my daughter, who's 25, had been in school with this girl called Jessica, and her mom started her own firm years ago. And I'm being so vulnerable with this. And I had dated a guy who also was an accountant, but he had done some word competition with her. And I was like, to ring her when it came to working with her because of this thing with this other person. And so when I looked and I sat down and I talked to consciousness that says, ring her, call her. And then the dad of my kids was like, hey, I'm really getting to call Frances. And so I called her and she was like, hey, I said, hey, I'm in this predicament. And she was like, send it over. And I said, hey, I want to apologize because I heard the story. And she said, Rachel, that was nothing to do with you. That's not how you rolled, you know? And within the space of, I would say, like from start to finish, they had the first year done in 3 months. They had the second year done in 6 months. They had the third year done. And I'm now up to date with a reliable, movable system for taxation and accounting and wages being paid and things, reports done every month. Simone, I would have never said that I was capable, confident, and I certainly wasn't trained to be capable and confident in the realm of reporting and this aspect of business. And it when you're willing to engage, it strengthens you in a way that you didn't know was possible.
That is so cool. Thank you so much, Rachel, for talking about that. And I really want to say, if you are listening to this going, oh yeah, but you don't know my story, I don't care what your story is. Rachel doesn't care what your story is. It's like you can flip the script and change the way your life is currently heading, like change the trajectory into something else, do something that is so fun and joyful for you, and anything is possible. And I love the way you talk about engagement and like activating that capacity you have to engage. Just make one phone call a day and see if it creates something different with your business. Start with one. And I'm going to say, start with the one that you think is going to end up in not a good way and see if you were correct or if there's something totally different. Like Rachel made that phone call, like I made phone calls. Like, what if this was part of the adventure,
Yeah, it's just so like, or you can do the same shit.
Let's do the same shit and keep complaining. Good luck with that. Have way too much fun. I'm moving on. Hey, I want to ask you as well, if I've got a Business Done Different class coming up. It's in September and it starts on my 11th to the 14th. So it's over 4 days and it's online only. If you're in America, that means it starts on the 10th of September. But you can find out about it at SimoneMilasas.com/BDD. Rachel, and also I highly recommend, please, ladies and gentlemen, go to accessjoybusiness.com because there's Joy Business facilitators all over the world and they're absolutely brilliant. And I highly recommend doing one of these Business Done Different classes. Even there's a one-day class that sometimes people spread it out, Access Business and Money. There is a lot of different classes you can take with this if you're interested in expanding your business, or even if you've just got a brilliant idea and you're like, hey, I just want to talk to someone and see, can this come into fruition? Pick up the phone, So Rachel, what have you got coming up?
I was just checking the schedule and I'm going to be in Warsaw. It's my first time in Warsaw with Friday, the 18th of August, 19th of August and August 20th. and the Business Done Different class. It's
Perfect.
just, yeah, it's big. The biggest feedback I get after the Business Done Different class was, why did I not do this class earlier?
I know. No, actually, hang on. Can I say the facilitators crack me up because they always ping me and go, oh my God, this is such a brilliant class to facilitate. And I get so much out of it. I'm like, I know, you're welcome, because you do as you go to the class. And here's something, the way I would function in business is I never, ever think I've got it right in business. Other areas of my life I've decided I did, but here I don't. And I'm destroying and I'm creating all of that too. But I'm always watching and listening for way others do things, not to create that as a reference point, to educate myself more and to see what pings, because I think each and every single person can be in business in a different way and does business in a different way. And yet when you hear something, you're like, oh, that sounds like fun, but then make it yours. It's like business to me should be something that's incredibly malleable. So I invite you to go check out. I love that you're going to Poland in summer. That's a good move. I went there once in winter and it was so cold. And I've got the Business Done Different online in September. Plus, like I said, go to Access Joy Business. There's plenty of Joy Business facilitators. Even book a private session, something, whatever you desire. So Rachel,
Can I just say, there's one thing that you have that inspires me, and I hope that I will always choose this courage to learn, and this courage to it takes massive courage to learn, you know what I mean? And so it's such a beautiful gift in growth and change, and thanks for that.
You're welcome. But I'm going to say you do have that, because for me, I think it takes a curiosity again. Yeah. If you're curious, and there's some stuff I listen to and I'm like, oh, bored, and I press delete. Yeah. There's other times I listen to stuff and I'm like, I'm cooking and I'm listening to a podcast, or, I get sent so many things for people to listen to, and some I get to and some I don't, but I literally follow the energy and go, oh, I like the way this person looks at the world. That's a very appealing thing for me. How are they looking at the world? Have they decided they're right, or are they in question? And if they're in question and they're also discovering, I'm like, oh, let's discover together. To me, that's part of the ecosystem of how we contribute to each other.
And that is joy of business, because most people are referencing business through stress and hard and busyness, and that actually is joy of business.
Yeah, and I do think there's a lot more people now that are creating more ease with their business and are creating less stress around it. Like knowing that that's actually a possibility. So, and maybe I'm delusional. Maybe I am, and that's a whole other topic. I don't know, but yeah. Thank you so much for being here, Rachel. I am so grateful that we finally got to do this. And if you want to find out more about Rachael O'Brien as well, it will be in the show notes. So don't forget to subscribe, and also follow us on Choice, Change and Action has its own Instagram page now. So you can follow us on there. And if there's anything in particular that you would like to hear about, slide into our DMs and we'll take a look at it. And if we can, we'll cover that topic as well. So thank you, Rachel, so much for being here. Is there anything else you want to mention?
Just pick up the phone.
Like old school. And don't forget, you can find us on YouTube as well. So thank you for being here. Please tell your friends, family, anyone, whatever. And it's like, have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Big hugs and ease, joy, and glory to you. Okay, goodbye, everybody. If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to hit the follow or subscribe button on your favorite listening platform to get notified of new episodes. We read all the reviews, so if there's any topic you would like to hear about, let us know. If you'd like to know more about the tools, information, and classes mentioned in the podcast, head on over to SimoneMilasas.com and follow me on Instagram at Simone Milasas, or the podcast has its very own link on Instagram at Choice, Change and Action. Don't forget, you can download the show notes, and lastly, have way too much fun today.